Shalom, coming in the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone and to the hopeful elect pushing his word in truth and sincerity across the four corners of the earth. This lesson is going to be titled Passover, not Easter. It's going to be a short one, but important one nonetheless. Right? Because you just had the so-called, I guess today was the last day of the whole Easter celebration nonsense, right? So just to break it down, that it's really the Passover is what they should be celebrating, these so-called Christians, not Easter, because Easter is a totally different thing, right? So Acts 12:4, and when he had apprehended him, he put him in prison and delivered him to four quaternions, quaternions, quaternions. There you go. Quaternions of soldiers. I believe that's like, it's a group of four, obviously, because quarter. Quaternions of soldiers to keep him, intending after Easter to bring him forth to the people. So Easter is only mentioned once in the scriptures, from my understanding, unless I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen it anywhere else, right? And so we go to the word Easter, goes to the word Pascha. And I was watching Apostle Tohar's lesson. He went into this, so I just figured I should do the same thing, because if you learn something, you're supposed to teach it, right? So Pascha,
Strong's G 3957. Pascha.
right? So the Paschal sacrifice, which was accustomed to be offered for the people's deliverance of old from Egypt. And which people? The Israelites, because the Israelites were the ones that were delivered from Egypt, right? And there was an animal sacrifice. It was a lamb, right? So if you go right here, next it says the Paschal lamb. The lamb the Israelites were accustomed to slay and eat on the 14th day of the month of Nisan, the first month of their year, in memory of the day on which their fathers, preparing to depart from Egypt, were bidden by Yahweh to slay and eat a lamb, and to sprinkle the doorpost with its blood, that the destroying angel, which was Yahweh Shai, seeing the blood, might pass over their dwellings, right? And their blood was a representation of a Thawah, right? Exempt from judgment, right? Which the elect are going to get, right? Right on their foreheads, right? Because they're sealed. Yahweh Shai, Hamashiach, crucified, is likened to the slain Paschal lamb. Yeah, right? Because he's a lamb. He was a lamb that was prepared to be sacrificed, right? A perfect lamb, unblemished. Yeah, but see, this is the Israelites. So this is referring to the Passover when it says Easter here, right? It's not referring to the Easter holiday with the eggs and the bunnies, right? And the queen of sun, I believe queen of heaven worship, right? Ishtar, the Paschal supper, the Paschal feast, the feast of the Passover. So that's where the word Paschal comes from, the Passover, extending from the 14th to the 20th day of the month Nisan. Like, people don't, especially Christians, they don't look things up, right? So Pascha is referring to the Passover, not Easter, right? Easter is a totally separate thing, right? So I wonder, actually, let's see if this pops up anything. Easter. Wow. So Easter, Old English Eastdag, Proto-German Ostron, dawn, also the name of a goddess of fertility in spring. And I believe it's talking about Ishtar, perhaps originally of sunrise, whose feast was celebrated at the spring equinox toward the sunrise, especially of the dawn. See, the Pascha is from Passover. They're intertwining them. That's why everyone gets confused. I think that's about it. It's just interesting that I said that. Matthew, just to point out further, that's referring to the Passover. Ye know that after 2 days is the feast of the Passover, not the feast of Easter, the feast of the Passover, and the Son of Man is betrayed to be crucified. Which is talking about Yahweh Shai, right? So the Passover is the feast of unleavened bread, right? The Passover is referring to the Passover when the death angel, right, angel of death, passed over Egypt, passed over the Israelites to kill the firstborns of the Egyptians, right? So it passed over them. That's why it's called the Passover. And during the Passover, they were eating unleavened bread. So that's what the Most High commanded them to do. So Matthew, actually, we're in the same chapter. Go to 17. Now the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Yahushua, saying unto him, Where wilt thou that we prepare for thee to eat the Passover? Right? It didn't say Easter, it said Passover, because Easter is a totally different thing. Okay? And he said, Go into the city to such a man and say unto him, The master saith, My time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at thy house with my disciples. And the disciples did as Yahushua had appointed them, and they made ready the Passover, not Easter. The Passover. Easter is a totally separate thing. Easter is a holiday of Queen of Heaven worship, where they have eggs. Where the eggs represent the fertility, eggs of fertility, because she was the fertility god. We just read that in etymology, actually, right? God of fertility, which represented the eggs and other things, right? So that's a totally different thing, because there's no the Passover had nothing to do with eggs and bunnies, right? So people should ask themselves, where'd that come from? That had nothing to do with the Passover or the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So obviously something separate, something totally different, right? I believe Israel actually had bunny ears or something like that. You have to look into that. But the last one, just to show some more. Mark 14:1. After 2 days was the feast of the Passover and of unleavened bread, and the chief priests and the scribes sought how they might take him by craft and put him to death. They referred to Yahweh Shai because they wanted to kill him. But notice they didn't mention Easter. It's just the feast of the Passover and of unleavened bread, right? So the Easter is totally separate. It's a different holiday. It's a pagan holiday. It has nothing to do with the real Jews, right? Which were the Israelites. It's not a custom or a day of worship when it comes to the Israelites, who are the real Jews, right? None of them celebrate Easter. That's a pagan holiday, right? So if you're celebrating Easter and saying, you're a Christian, you're confused, right? Right? The Christians nowadays do that, but Christians nowadays are not the Israelites, right? Because that name, the Christian, was almost like a term of a mocking. They're like, oh, look at those Christians, because they're the ones that serve Yahweh Shai, Hamashiach, which Hamashiach means Christ, anointed. So they made fun of them by calling them Christians, right? So that's where that term came from. But nowadays, these Christians they're not the real Christians, right? Anyways, the point has been made. I hope this lesson has been edifying to the hopeful elect, right? You got to research, right? The apostles in GMS say, to know the history, you have to know. To know the mystery, you have to understand the history, right? If you don't know the history, you won't understand the mystery. So you need to know history a little bit, so the things in the scriptures can make sense and ring bells in your head. So, like I said, I hope this lesson was edifying to the hopeful elect. I'd like to close out by saying, Ka hala Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, and to the hopeful elect pushing his word in truth and sincerity across the four corners of the earth. Death and destruction to his wicked kingdom, and 2/3 as well. Kwam Yasharala, Abad Babal, Shalom.